You know, it always happens like this, right?
Just
Technology.
roll with the punches.
I guess. Well, I do pretty good at rolling with the punches, but usually, I mean, I pay good money for a really good internet connection. Comcast is going to hear from me tonight.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. But we are live, and well, we've been live for
Great.
about 20 seconds here, and so let's give it a couple minutes because I don't see any eyeballs. How was your day?
It was good. It was busy. So
Great.
usually I'm closed. The shop is closed Monday and Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes on Mondays and Tuesdays. So it was like put in an inventory order over here, an inventory order over there. Ship things, print things out, organize, pick up children, drop off children.
The
Ah,
life of a businesswoman.
yeah,
So it looks like
businesswoman,
we got some.
mom, yeah.
It looks like we got some eyeballs on, so let's go ahead and pretend we're live, folks. This is Stories at Sundown. I'm your host with the most, Mac McCullough from Willard Library, and we're live from Burley Corners. And I need to apologize up front if you see me just kind of frozen on the side. I'm having technical issues tonight. I don't know why. Tiffany, on the other hand, looks great. My guest this evening is Tiffany Blackman. Uh, Tiffany is an entrepreneur, a business owner, a community activist, a mentor, a coach. I mean, the list could go on and on. I think, Tiffany, I met you when you were the volunteer coordinator at the food bank of South Central Michigan.
That's when we first met. Yep,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's been a while. And you've committed yourself to a life of service. You probably had a life of service even before then, but you've been on this track for a long time, huh?
I have. I grew up in post edition, and I saw a lot of servitude growing up, a lot of servant leadership, I would say. And from teachers to neighbors and my parents, they did what they could too. A lot comes from church culture also. So, yeah, it's been probably since my early teens trying to
Wow.
figure out cause based things to connect to and help out the community.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun to watch you evolve and move on, and not reinvent yourself. We'll talk about that later. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're here to talk today about your latest enterprise. You are the owner of a brand new downtown retail establishment called Bread and Basket, and
Yeah.
visited your store for the first time here last week, and it's a beautiful store. So let's just jump right in and talk about it. What inspired you to create bed and breakfast?
Yeah. So bread and basket.
Oh, bed and basket.
No,
Gee,
it's totally fine.
no,
Like we're
no.
more used to things like bed and breakfast.
That might be a next
um,
line for it. No, but
yeah, maybe eventually. Who knows, Mac? Maybe you're.
yeah, bread and
um,
basket.
yeah. So Bread and Basket LLC was started in July of this year, and I actually was prototyping it back in October of last year.
Oh, okay. So what's
Yep.
with the name?
So, so Bread and Basket, the name actually has a really, really clear meaning when it comes to the purpose and mission of this business. So, basket is the concept that every woman has a basket. It goes from definitely like tribal instinct where women have some type of skill set, some type of product or service that she has to offer the community, that she has to carry in order to help take care of her family. And then bread is AKA cash. Every woman has to help her family somehow. So cash is the slang for bread. Bread and basket is really just the concept that every woman has to make some sort of bread and has some type of skill set, talent, ability, product, service that she has to offer the community.
Yeah, yeah. So I you had a pause there in a minute. I want to get back to your inspiration for this, and it's an extension of work you were already doing.
Yeah.
So, and you've hinted at it a little bit already in just your last answer. But what inspired you to create um, Bread and Basket?
So back in I guess September of last year, maybe a little bit before that. So COVID hit, top of March. I was already doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work. I have a consultant business. I travel and I train on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And over the past 3 years, I've definitely dipped my toes into entrepreneurship as far as support. So I've been um, contracted with Morning Light for about 3 years to do work, and it's all revolved around equity, right? Like, how do we support minority-owned business owners? How do we support women business owners locally in Battle Creek? And so I have been involved in that work in the background, helping to coach in small business development. And when COVID hit, and I had to try to balance a full-time job and manage my children now being at home as a single mother of four. I really just felt quite a bit overwhelmed by the time the end of the school year happened in June. And then the schools were telling us, okay, we're going to be virtual again in the fall. And so, what really inspired me to start another business and help support women of color in this way was really that I didn't have any other options. Work full time, mostly at home, and then also back and forth to the office was not going to work for me in the standard sense that even though they were trying to be extremely flexible, I just had four different children, four different grades, two different schools, and it just wasn't going to work. I had time to dream. More than 2 million women in America had to leave their job for some reason during COVID. And oftentimes it was because she was still in the caretaker role, whether that was children or family members, siblings, parents, whatever. And there's a lot more to it, I'm sure. But their standard way of living wasn't working anymore. So they had to transition out of their job. So for me, that gave me opportunity to breathe, opportunity to dream. And I really just thought, okay, what's the next thing then? And I thought that I would maybe do more consultant work and do a lot more virtual trainings on DEI. But what ended up happening was my passion for entrepreneurship stayed intact because I was still doing the trainings with Morning Light and different cohorts of entrepreneurs locally in Battle Creek. And I realized that over 80% of the people that they were actually training were women of colors. It were women of color. And they also had product-based businesses. So these weren't service-based businesses mostly that are offering, consulting like I already was. These were businesses that were baking. They were businesses that were selling, lip gloss or, lots of different things actually. Bows, hair oils. I can literally run down the line, but they were selling different products. And for me, the gap remained that they didn't have access to shelf space. So I had time, I had opportunity to dream. I had a passion already. I've been doing women of color work for quite a few years, mostly in junior league, and then a little bit in the community. And I really just said, you know what? There's a gap. I need to help fill it. So that's how Bread and Basket was born. The inspiration of like, you're gonna have to figure out what's next and do something. And so that's how it occurred.
Wow. And tell me a little bit, or tell our viewers, you've already told me, but tell our viewers, and I apologize, viewers, if you see me freezing up. This is distracting me, so I hope it's not distracting you. But tell us a little bit how the business works.
Sure.
It's a unique model, at least from what I've heard.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely say it's a unique model. It's not so unique that it's not being done across the US, but it's gaining popularity. It really has to do with group economy and group economics. Uh, the model for Bread and Basket, our mission is to help develop, promote, and provide a network of resources for women of color owned businesses. I do that for product based businesses. So they apply for our incubator, much like many other incubator programs, and they say, hey, this is my business, this is what I want to do or what I currently am selling. This is what I need help with. And then she applies and I review. So I automatically go in and take a look at all of her information, her social media, her website, like everything like that, and see if it's a good fit with our mission. And so if she is accepted into the program, which right now we have 5 different local women of color owned businesses in the incubator, then I immediately pull up to $200 of resources to purchase product from her right away. And most of the women that come into the incubator, they are not familiar with wholesale. They're used to selling direct to customers. So, word of mouth, my family, my friends, this is who I sell to. And I'll keep trying to put it out there and see if I get customers. But wholesale is a whole nother animal that many women of color, after talking with them, don't understand or know about. I have a little bit of background in retail from my teenage years and early 20s, so I knew a little bit more about it, but still I had to learn about it as well because I never had to purchase wholesale. But it's a huge concept to take in, but most women understand it in like 5 minutes of conversation. They understand the concept. The issue is oftentimes their pricing isn't where it should be, which absolutely aligns with the data showing that women of color are paid less in their businesses than the average white woman. And so it's definitely a growing pain because you have a customer base oftentimes already, but you realize that you are undervaluing yourself and you have to charge more so that you can actually have someone like me with Bread and Basket purchase from you and then resell it back into the community wholesale. But the average white woman that does have a product based business, this is her bread and butter. She uses wholesale as her steady. And then the direct sales is extra, right? Because you can sell in volume. So the model is pretty simplistic. You apply for the program, you get accepted, you get access to one-on-one coaching, training. Also, you get direct purchases wholesale from us. And then we're a network, we're on an email thread together. We do social media together. We cross promote all the time. You come in, I come to your spot, all those different things. So we've become a network together. And then immediately when I decided to test the model, I realized that building the customer base for Bread and Basket for those local women of color owned businesses, that was not going to support a brick and mortar. I can spend $1,000 on inventory and have $1,000 of inventory and then a profit of 2, but that's not going to pay my bills, And so I had to figure out a way immediately to help sustain a storefront where the general public can have access to these products. And so I do wholesale at Bread and Basket like any other retail store. You look at Target, you look at Meijer, you look at TJ Maxx, they're purchasing directly from other brands and then reselling it to you, the end customer, right? So I do the same exact thing. The only difference is that we purchase from women of color owned businesses first, and then minority owned businesses, and then everybody else. So we do purchase from some of everyone, but the goal is to keep purchasing from other small businesses. These are stories and brands that are building from the ground up. They've gotten to the point where they actually can do wholesale and make it a priority. But it is very personal. Like when I purchase $200 from a brand, that's directly helping to feed their family, And I'm learning more and more about the brands and the people behind the brands that I'm supporting, so that they can in turn help support us locally, because otherwise I can't do what I do. So yeah, it's a pretty simplistic model when you break it down, but it's very different.
Yeah.
Usually a business owner goes in and they're like, this is my business. I'm doing retail. I'll buy from whoever and resell it, you know. But this is more of a partnership. In fact, the incubated businesses are called business partners because it is a partnership.
Yeah. I suppose when you put it that way, you are, I mean, all businesses share risk to an extent, but you're sharing risk yourself operating on a pretty slim margin, and the people you're buying from, the women you're buying from, are operating on a slim margin. So it really is it's a community building, networking, all everything you just said. But it's impressive. I want to talk a little bit about some of your motivation and just the challenges that women of color entrepreneurs face in entering into business. Even though their numbers, uh, they most of the startups are women of color, are they not?
Yeah, yeah. So statistically, every year, if 10 women owned businesses are started, about 9 of them are women of color owned. And so we are starting businesses by and large in the majority, but yet we still are underfunded. Access to capital is an issue. I like to tell folks all the time about the issue with like trust and giving venture capital upfront. So on average, there's about, well, we're almost at 50%. Small businesses, women owned, are almost at 50% of all small business owners. But in that 50% of venture capital, meaning dollars that different investors are willing to put into businesses, different organizations that put aside money in order to support local businesses, of that money, only 15% goes to women owned businesses, and only 2% goes to Black women owned businesses like mine. It's a huge gap in equity. It's something that I hope to address. But unfortunately, like, I haven't been able to fix it for myself. I
Right.
have definitely had some support from the community, especially the Morning Light program, helping to subsidize the space that I'm in for 3 months. But these are pennies compared to other, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about Morning Light because they have a limited budget, obviously. I'm just saying community wide, businesses that are Black owned, that are minority owned, that are women owned, oftentimes are seeing pennies on the dollar in investment versus the majority white male owned business.
Right. Well, there's even a disparity between white women's success in securing either venture capital money or financing from a bank than minority owned and women of color owned businesses. Isn't that true too?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I just mentioned, as far as venture capital alone, she's more apt to get, 13% of that venture capital versus my two. And I don't ever feel like I'm really, really careful about how I go about in business and in life, because I really do believe the only person you're competing with is yourself. And so but dollars, investment, that mindset has to shift with investors, not necessarily the entrepreneurs that are looking for the investments. Like for me, it shouldn't take 2 years of having a bank account in my business name in order for me to be able to secure some type of capital from a local institution that I've been a member of, and they've seen my financials for over 20 years. These are things that directly equate to a loan or a credit card or a line of credit for the business, like all of those things that really shouldn't boil down to an issue of trust, but that's literally what it does boil down to.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to put up a few slides from,
Mhm.
and thank you for sending me those photos. So I'm going to put you up solo. This will get my freezing face off the screen for a little bit. It's driving me crazy.
I
Um,
see. It's just you because I'm like, it's fine. It's not
yeah, you
level.
look great. You look great. So
Thank you.
let's put you up there. Oh, I'm back in. Oh well. Um, all right. So let's take a look at these slides.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and this is from when I walked in the store the other day. You were sitting behind this table, looking out toward me. So this is the store. Where are you downtown?
Yeah, so we're located at 30 East Michigan Avenue. It's literally smack dab in between Cafe Rica, which is four doors down to my right, and then also Irmish Travel, which is four doors down to my left. Some people don't know what Irmish Travel is, so I say the Waterfall or New York Connection, which a lot of folks do know. They've been in the community for a really long time and sell menswear. So either way you spin it, about four doors down from the Waterfall, four doors in from Cafe Rica, right in the middle.
Yeah, and for those of us, I mean, it's Randy Case's building. It's the old hotel there.
Yeah,
Um,
it is. And I haven't even seen upstairs yet. I've heard from several friends like you have to take a tour. So I'm gonna have to ask Randy. He's such a great guy. Like he would totally be like, "Oh, I didn't know you wanted to see it. Let me take you up."
it is a cool building.
Yeah,
And so this,
very.
this is just some samples of some of the products you have. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about kind of the eclectic selection you have there.
Yeah, sure. So, in reality, when I had to choose a code for the IRS, I chose a department store. The Bread and Basket, although we are operating all of our headquarters out of 38 East Michigan, and that's where I do all of our marketing and our website and e-commerce and everything. That's about two-thirds of our space actually when you go in. So you saw the lounge where we sat and talked. And then behind the register, that's where I keep all of the workshop area and
Wow.
area for all the ladies that need to come in and do some work. But it's only about one third of the space. And the products that you're looking at right now, these are products that I'm sourcing from all across the US in order to support the mission. So we have specialty foods as a category. We're getting teas and coffees and beans and almond butters from all across the US. And like I said, mostly minority owned businesses. We do have some internal branding. So on the left, you see the Create Courage box, which is one of the boxes that I prototyped last year, where it just has three really diverse stories that show Black and Brown lives and how kids kind of navigate through the world. And you can purchase one of those boxes and give it to a teacher or a child or a family member to help lift up diversity and inclusion. And then we don't carry a lot of toys and things like that, but I do try to keep things in the shop for the children. So we have some kits for the holidays, like the origami kit over
Mhm.
on the bottom right. We also have clay kits. So I tend more to like educational things and offering things that keep kids busy, arts, things like that. And then the Try Black box now has a name, but a year ago, this box did not have a name, but this was the purpose, was to introduce people to women of color owned products. And specifically, this is introducing people to Black owned brands.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's we carry a little bit of everything, but skincare, hair care, beauty. Oh, that's Jennifer. Jennifer is in our incubator program. She makes her lotions over in Kalamazoo, and we've been through four turnovers of her products. So if folks don't know what that means, essentially, before I met Jennifer in June of this year, she had no connection to Battle Creek. Because she's in the incubator, I've sold over 40 of her lotions out of our shop. So
Wow.
usually I get between 12 and 14 lotions at a time. and we've been able to turn those over and sell them 4 times over. So that's huge. That's what women of color need. They need someone advocating for their business. They can do all the groundwork, but if it's just them, they can only get so far. So I'm hoping that this type of model catches on because we have a lot of Jennifers, right? We have a lot
Right.
of Jennifers that need retailers to step up and actually start doing something different. They have buying power. They have the opportunity to say, yes, business as usual is that Walmart charges, $2 per item in order to be in their big box store, but yet you sell, 1,000 items when Jennifer can never get down to that price point. She can never do that. It's
Hmm.
too cheap.
Yeah.
So she needs a small business that's local, a retailer that's willing to work with her and support her in this way.
Yeah.
And then this picture is Christina, and she's at one of our events because we do events too. So I realized pretty early on that doing retail like normal wasn't going to work, right? Like people want something to do. We've been locked up in our houses pretty much for a year and a half. And shopping is good and all, but like we like to connect to people. We like to connect to community. So Penetrator Events actually awarded us a grant for reconnecting through retail. And so we were able to host several like sipping, paint and sips, and things like that, a children's day, where we invited the public to come on in and have some fun and just, meet each other, get out. Yeah. What's cool is that some of the people I do know from the community, and there's a lot that I don't. And it's the first time we meet, and then they're meeting each other and making connections. It's really, really cool. So,
Yeah.
and they usually shop. Usually afterwards, or before, they'll like go take a gander at the products and see what we got. So,
Yeah. And this is your hours, 11 to 6, Wednesday through Saturday.
Yep. And then I will be having some extended holiday hours. I'm still trying to figure that part out because my life doesn't really change, but in retail, yeah, people want to shop. So I'm gonna have to extend hours a little bit, and I'll be posting those soon here too.
Yeah. And I think this is probably that workshop you were talking about in the bottom.
Oh yeah. So this one is actually a throwback of the space. So
Okay.
this was when Morning Light was in the space. And
Okay.
if you look like all the way back in the middle, there's a guy with a red jacket. And then if you look to the left, there's a woman with like a teal skirt and a black and white stripe. That's me. So
Okay.
I was coaching and facilitating that day for Morning Light.
Okay.
And it's so weird to think like full circle. I've been in that space having conversations with entrepreneurs and helping to train them. And now I'm in that space and I own a retail shop that also helps support local entrepreneurs.
Yeah. That's really cool. And you're also filling a kind of a basic need in Battle. We need more retail stuff downtown. It's a nice to have another choice. But
Yeah.
the conundrum you have, I mean, from my perspective, and we talked about this a little bit. I mean, people come down, they go for one destination and they go out because they're not they're not just accustomed to being able to stroll down the street and see things, right?
They're not. And I mean, I have oh gosh, I'm a part of a couple of different Facebook groups. One is like, you're from Battle Creek, and then one's like a historical one. But they've showed pictures of like the Michigan Mall in the early 1900s, and all of the mall type stores, the anchors, like Sears and Penny's, and all of those. A lot of names that I don't remember because I'm only
Yeah.
38. I'm not trying to throw shade on nobody. I love everybody's age. But it's before my time. And the Michigan Mall was like the mall. It was all downtown. It was all downtown. And downtown in many cities, you can even just hop over to Marshall and over to Kalamazoo and see how important it has been to upkeep the downtown areas. Unfortunately, even in my short 38 years, like I've seen a couple of turnovers where it's like, man, downtown looks hit. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if we can survive this or build it back. And it's just been this really hard work to build it back up. And I think that it is coming back up, but I think we're going to have to be willing to do some additional investments to keep folks here because I'm like, we're in a 7-month lease. It's like pretty much unheard of for a small business to be able to lease for 7 months. Now, gratefully, Randy Case, my landlord, he has been so gracious with his wife, Sue, in actually saying, yeah, we can transition that last little bit of the lease and like pilot this idea and this concept and this model. But that's really unheard of. Like you are usually having to do a 3-year, a 5-year lease, which is a really long time in this market. For business owners like me starting up, I mean, even think about Cafe Rica, they're new to their space.
Right.
They just moved into their space, right before COVID hit last year. And then had to take a breather because the state told them to. And you have to realize like how as a community can we wrap our arms around these new small businesses. Salon K, Cafe Rica, 32 Social, Simply Sensational Bear. I mean, can keep naming the ones that have just showed up and then not forgetting about the ones that have been there and seeing how we can support and keep them down there. But you're right. We have gotten so accustomed to just beeline to the restaurant, beeline to the cafe, beeline to my apartment if I'm at Milton or, LK Ventures, like, and it has to be like walkable. It has to be, we have to change the mindset to say, like, how do we support local? And I'm hoping that that's the case even with the holiday season, that people see all these small businesses for what they are. They're small businesses that are committed and invested in our community, and we have to help support them, right?
Well, when you mentioned that, I was so shamefaced because I'm one of those people, I need a cup of coffee. Bang, I go and bang, I'm back to work or
We
whatever.
made you that way. Don't feel ashamed.
But, kudos to Randy for being as flexible as he has been. And, you kind of alluded to it already. I mean, there's a lot going on. People, we've had artists on this program. We've had Justin from Morning Light on this program. A lot of people really investing in Battle Creek and trying to create that ecosystem where people are supportive of each other. But it's been slow.
Yeah.
It's been slow.
Change is never as fast as we wanted. The issue I have with slow is that you can lose a lot of forward movement when it's slow, right? So we have to capitalize when we can. I mean, projects like the record box and getting it filled with Collab BC and Hand Map, those are huge components, like there's no way that could have been as slow as 10 years because then it might not have happened. Like there's a stamina issue when it starts to get elongated. But I do think that we have a lot of team players and a lot of really passionate people that are invested in the downtown area and invested in the community at large. So now it's just time to start thinking a little bit differently. There's a lot of excitement with like Sprout coming downtown, and I'm loving all of the excitement about everything right now. Like it's feeling full again. It doesn't look blighted downtown because I definitely remember a time when it felt very blighted, mostly before the Milton got redone as well. And we didn't have some of those buildings filled, but it's taken a lot of work to get to where we are, but there's still a lot of work to do because there's a lot of small businesses that want to be here and even want to be downtown, but is it affordable? Can they make it happen? And that's where the creativity steps in. My initial model showed a rendering where all of the businesses, up to 12 that I incubated, were actually inside of the space. Of course, COVID changed that a lot. And having to manage, like, what can I actually control in a space and what would make sense during this up and down time. But we do have to get creative. We have to be innovative and realize that, it can go a really long way when we think about group economics and we think about how can we make space available and affordable and how can we invest back into people that want to invest in the community.
Right, right. I want to get a little personal here. I mean,
Yeah.
well, one of the things you said is that you look at this as a stepping stone, um, and I think you were in response to someone's, "Oh, it's great to see you reinvent yourself." But for you, this is all connected to what you've been working in all your life.
It is. Yeah. Someone said that to me recently and I mean it's not that big of a deal, but it's not a reinvention. It's literally, like you said, it's a stepping stone. Every part of my life, every part of my career, and even my personal life has been another stepping stone. And for me, things that have been a part of my life that didn't really didn't really make a lot of sense. Like in my teenage years, I worked in retail and I worked in fast food. And I was under other entrepreneurs like Tita and Ray Champlin that owned the Dairy Queen over on Cliff Street in Maine. And I also worked at Horrocks and learned so much from there. I actually met my ex-husband there because his mom, like all these pieces that like really showed me how to do excellent customer service, how to organize, how to do visual merchandising, all of those type of things. I never had a opportunity to piece that together until now where I need those skills and I need that skill set and then I have to, continue to invest and build on it, I don't know how many hours of YouTube I've watched about visual merchandising or picking inventory or blah blah blah, but like all of it adds up. And I just remember feeling so extremely grateful by the time I was like 2 months into the space about all the business connections that I've made, even the Starks at Michigan Tile, like to see them stick with it after so many years, to see Tita and Ray Champlin stick with it and invest in community and invest in jobs, like those are the things I aspire to. I want to be able to offer jobs. Right now, I just pay my 17-year-old daughter to work a couple hours on the weekend. And even then, sometimes I'm like, I can't, I don't got no hours this weekend. I gotta pay back the inventory. But like that's the goal. I mean, when I look at friends like the brothers at Cafe Rica, Tristan and Jackson, that's the goal. They started
Sure.
out in the cargo. We have so many businesses that started in the cargo. That's now Bunika with Cakes by Boo is now working at 32 Social, has her products there. Like these are all the moves. Simply Sensational Berries, like those are the moves. But there's a lot of hardship in those moves and a lot of 0 days in those moves that make us want to quit. And I just encourage folks, if you see something that's happening in the community and you want it to continue, support it. You don't always have to support it with dollars. That's important. But support it with a share, support it with a like, support it with a referral, whatever you can do, because that's what keeps businesses and business owners encouraged in doing what they do, because people don't have access to the products that I carry here. I purposefully am sourcing them because they're things that I enjoy and that my friends enjoy that typically we got to go out of Battle Creek to get access to. And that shouldn't be the case. This is our home. I love Battle Creek. We should have everything, every specialty food that we want to have here. I don't need to go to Chicago to have some good popcorn or coffee. I can literally buy it at my shop. So
Yeah, that actually reminded me of something you said that in Battle Creek. You found your Brook.
yeah.
Explain.
Yeah, so everyone that knows me knows that I'm a woman of faith. I'm a Christian woman, and Battle Creek's my brook. In the Old Testament, it talks about Elijah and God providing for him at a brook because he was kind of transitioning in between where he lived and where he needed to go. And for me, that has been a constant since my 20s, is like every person has a Brook, like wherever you're living, wherever your community is, your family is, like that's the Brook that you were called to. And so many people, and I've heard this so many times, unfortunately for me, with some of my family members over the year, they're like trying to get out of this Brook. They're like, forget that. Battle Creek sucks. I don't want to be here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, life is what you make it wherever you go, you know? And I have just, I don't know, even from elementary, I remember just loving this city, the walkability, how fresh it feels here, like with all nature and access to it. And then the people, like the people are amazing. I've had such amazing teachers and friends' families, and I was put here for a reason. Every part of my story has been a part of the reason. And this is just another evolution of the reason. And like, I've never seen myself living anywhere else, because this is the Brook that I was called to, and that's where I want to help folks. And this is where I want to build community.
Well, we're all glad for that. One more question, and it's really because you answered so many of my questions without even me having to ask, which is great.
Yay.
You're the perfect guest. But your advice to any woman of color who is contemplating starting a business. I mean, where do you start?
Oh goodness. Yeah. So number one, sis, don't do it alone. Like seriously, there's so many of us that have been there, done that, have some wisdom, or connections. Like you don't have to do it alone. And I know oftentimes this is any entrepreneur. Your idea is your baby. You don't want anyone touching on your baby. You don't want anybody trying to take your baby, you know, all those things. But there is absolutely a way to connect and still feel very protected and safe. And you need to connect. You do not have to do this alone, and you're not an island by yourself. Like we are out here, we're here to support. I can list so many entrepreneurs, and again, it doesn't stop at women of color. That's just specifically who I feel called to help. But you go up and down Michigan Ave, everyone's supportive of each other. Even if we're competition, we're supportive of each other, you know? So she does not have to do it alone. The second thing I would say is be encouraged, be encouraged, because you're gonna go through some hard stuff just like every entrepreneur does. And it really teaches you how to be resilient. Now, thankfully, I learned how to be resilient really early on. But this is a different type of resiliency that's required of me when you start owning your own stuff. But I would just say be encouraged and keep going. I hear it all the time. The market may be oversaturated, but they don't have you. To me, there's nothing new under the sun. Owning a retail shop, this is nothing new, right? Even the concept, you can see multiple businesses throughout the US that actually have a concept where they're supporting other small business owners and entrepreneurs, from Detroit to Chicago to Atlanta and all the way around. So it's not a new concept, but it's me that's doing it, right? Same thing as the woman of color that needs that encouragement right now. Like it's your dream, it's your vision. It was given to you for a reason. So just do it, connect and do it. But don't do it alone. Cause I see so many, I'm like, please don't. I'm still trying to figure it out, Matt, because there's so many women of color that's now opening up businesses and then taking on leases. And I could say like even 15 of us that are paying our own lease and having to make enough to pay that. Like, I'm gonna have to own some property soon. I just feel it because there's too much going all these different ways, and we need it to be condensed so that we can do what we do together lessen the expense and actually be building community a little bit better. So
That's a good note to end it on, building community.
yeah,
Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on tonight, and stick with
absolutely.
me, after I sign off here for a minute. But next week, I just want to take a minute for a shameless promotion. Next week, this time, we are doing our next Peeks into the Past program, and it's about another entrepreneur, although you don't necessarily always hear or refer to that way. I'm working with a number of folks: Kimberly Hawley, Donna Rickman, Liz Newmeyer, and a theologian from Chicago on a program about Sojourner Truth. And I
Hey,
say Sojourner Truth is an entrepreneur because she really um, learned on her own to market herself, and a former slave who owned 3 homes in her lifetime, learned how to guard her brand and promote it. So there's a lot to uncover in this show next week. So I hope you all join us.
that's
Again,
good.
thank you, Tiffany, and we'll be talking soon.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.